So I actually missed the video that we recorded in the Insta live. I couldn't save it. So here we are without the video, but there are some points that I wanted to say, and I might not be able to cover everything that I said in the video because it just came in a flow and I said everything that felt appropriate in the moment. But I'm gonna still cover 2-3 areas that I know we need to talk about on that call, in that conversation, right? So I spoke about first point was why writing is important. So when you write for journaling, what happens is you literally open up your habitual pattern. For 10 to 15 years, the generation that I'm speaking with right now might not be applicable to the next generation that is constantly on iPads and on keyboards. But for the generation that I'm speaking with at this point in time, has spent 10 to 12 years writing. And we have developed writing as an expressive mechanism. We used it to represent ourselves in the past when we were in school. So this has become the encoded part of our personality. So like cycling and swimming, you may take time to get onto it, but once you are in that flow of writing, it does not leave you. So, to take that conversation further, when you journal, you actually use your muscles, and that triggers a specific part of your brain. And the brain cortex that allows the writing movement to happen goes through multiple processes. So, a single sentence on the paper has more sensory experience than the same sentence typed on a keyboard, and that's why we can use that sentence or writing as a skill to reach out to the deeper emotions. So we are using writing, and I'm emphasizing on handwriting for journaling because we want to reach out to these deeper emotions. We want to trigger them with the questions and the conversations that we do on the calls. And then we are also using simultaneous graphotherapy, the therapy where we're changing certain part to become calmer. So it's literally like uh, you are asking for the trigger to go on in your mind about a particular situation, and then you use the medicine to solve that problem. But without the trigger going on, you don't know where all this scenario or this anxiety or this problem is troubling you, stopping you, getting the better of you. Okay, so that's why we are using writing as a process. So people who have joined today, and I know so many of you have joined today, just stick to today's practice, today's video, and take it from there. You need not go back and choose the video from the previous section. If you have time, if you feel like, you can do that, but as a process it won't change anything for you. To follow a sequence, cover all the questions, all 21 questions, but you need not follow a sequence. You can do them randomly. Watch a video, do the practice, and answer the question in your journaling. So all of them, it becomes one unit. So you can take 21 units of this workshop in any sequence. So there is no sequence to our conversation, right? So because it is not built, customized, personalized, so there is no point one and point two. I believe whatever you require to experience and feel triggered on and look at your solutions for, all those things will show up when you keep asking the questions and keep journaling. Now the second part was about graphotherapy. It was about if your hand is hurting, if your mind is not letting you do the practice properly, if you're constantly trying to struggle and you're experiencing that, that resistance comes when your brain and your body actually reaches a point of resistance and fight back to stay and stick to the comfort zone. Comfort zone not because anxiety is comfortable, but comfort zone because anxiety is familiar. The old patterns are familiar, and you know we love familiarity. So many times we keep repeating the habits that we do not like, or we are not very proud of ourselves for, but we keep doing it because familiarity is our brain's go-to. So that's what is happening. What is familiar is uh, preferred by our brains. Okay, so when we are changing, and why are you feeling the resistance in the writing? because it is working, because it is exactly going and talking about those areas, those points which are otherwise not available to you. So that's why the resistance, and if the resistance is higher, if you feel irritated while doing the practice or your brain goes all over the place, all I would say is don't over analyze it. Just stick to the process. Just do it because you got to do it. Do it and finish that page. Don't get into analyzing it, because that's not what we are doing. You doing the process will reduce the stimulation, will reduce this hopping around for your mind. Okay, so before you make up your mind whether this is working for you or not, give it 7 days. If it doesn't work, throw it out of the window, no problem at all. But if it works, you would have a mechanism that you can count on. I mentioned in the call also that when I address a larger group of people, I go to this S stroke. So 5 minutes, 10 minutes before the conversation, the talk, I take time out to do the flow stroke, and that is because I want to be more aligned and more calm and more composed when I address the issue, when I address the crowd. I want to make sure that my mind is working at its best, and it is actually giving me the words and the expressions the way I would like to have them. So that flow gets created with the stroke. So count on it and make up your mind by giving at least 7 days, okay? And I'm going to do my best to build this conversation based on my understanding, my experience, my training, but it is also coming from your response. I'm speaking to 5 to 6 people every day in the free conversation, the free graphology analysis that we are doing. And as I speak with people, I am realizing how this anxiety, how the anxiety of this lockdown is getting to them. So on a daily basis, I'm observing, I'm gathering information, and I am thinking based on your feedback what is the best possible solution, what is the best possible question for the next day, for the next week, and I'm building this workshop based on that. So do send me your handwriting practice, do send me a question, tell me what is bothering you so that we can address it. We can address all other people who are suffering from the same issue, same problem. So if you have specifically caught yourself in an anxious moment, and you observe yourself being triggered, tell me how that trigger is bothering you, and send me your handwriting practice. I want to make sure that you practice a correct stroke, not any stroke, but a correct stroke. So my team and I are making sure that we give feedback to every single handwriting sample that comes our way, the SS stroke sample. Do tag me so that we can inspire more people to use this tool. Okay, so let's talk about today's topic. I spoke about trigger and response. Now, most of the time when we get I spoke about trigger and the response. Now, most of the time when we get triggered in a situation, we believe the trigger and the reaction to the trigger are correlated. They're pretty much the one thing. There is no lapse, there is no gap, there is no variation between the two. We feel if I'm triggered, I have to respond like this or react like this. Now, what do we do by doing this? We literally use our emotions and turn them into a remote control and give it into other people's hand. We tell them, hey you, a stranger, a boss, a friend, a colleague, a spouse, you don't know me yet, or if you know me or whatever you think would get to me completely, here is a remote control for you. You can press that one red button and I will behave exactly the same way. I keep behaving the same way as if I have no choice. And we do that because trigger are patterns from the past. In the past, when the situation happened, you suffered some severe consequences. You experienced something that was unacceptable. Now, that trigger and that consequence got fused in your mind, and every time you get closer to the trigger, you start believing that the consequence is going to be the same, and before you know it, you react in the same manner that you did in the past or you did while struggling to deal with the trigger. So here I want to intervene and I want to speak about breaking this trigger versus reaction mechanism as if you have no choice. Now, what does that mean? Imagine when that thing happened, or when you reacted in a certain manner, or when you catch yourself getting caught in a trigger that is bothering you right now, you also know what kind of reaction you do. This is not unconscious, but it is automatic. You're doing it, you know you're getting upset, you know you're getting angry, you know you are getting caught into your old pattern, and that reaction is also something that you could observe. Now, if I can observe that automatic reaction, do I have a choice to change it? Can I move my hand somewhere else instead of just following that one pattern that I used in the past or that I'm stuck with? That is a choice. That is a moment of choice I'm referring to. Now, what we're going to journal about, the question is, what would you respond to? So we will actually pick up one or two situations or one or two trigger points, and we say how differently would you respond to dash situations. So situation number 1, 2, whatever you want to put. So that situation, if it occurs again right now. So how would you respond to this, which is a situation, if it occurs right now? So there was a phase in which I got genuinely triggered when people cracked jokes on me. And I thought that is self-deprecating or deprecating to prove a point or say something. So I got triggered once or twice, and then it became an automatic upset reaction. So I would be in a situation, somebody would crack a joke, and I would feel upset. Now, when I used in my journaling this question, where I asked myself, okay, wait a minute. If I have to look at the situation right now, when I'm not at that party, not in that conversation, where I have more options and I'm calmer to look at the thing from a different light altogether, how would I respond to it right now? And the very moment I started looking at that, I realized my choices were wider. I could have laughed at those jokes, ignored them. If they were really deprecating, could have gone and spoken to the person after the party, or even like set the ground clear to see if the person is really upset with me, to use humor as an indirect way of communicating. Or I could have cracked more jokes and would have had a good time. But all those choices and all those options were not available in the moment, and the trigger was a predominant idea. When the trigger became less powerful and I had more choices, because of two things. One, I could look at this trigger and identify it. Secondly, I could apply this trigger situation and come up with options when I'm not in the situation, when I was not addressing it in the moment and feeling stuck about it. So let's look at our triggers in a different manner, and let's do this assignment. What we're going to do, we're going to spend 20 minutes, 10 minutes to do the S stroke, and then write this question, ask this question to ourselves, and respond to it with whatever comes to our mind. Pick one or two triggers. It will be much easier and much more enjoyable, if I may say. So I will see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. On Insta Live, and we will talk about a new topic, and we will take day 6 with complete energy and enthusiasm. So see you there. Bye bye.